All right. Welcome back to the channel, TG. It's nice to see your face again. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It was so good to meet you in person recently.
Yes, indeed. We had a great opportunity to play some cards the other weekend at the Courtesan Cup Qualifier in Baltimore, and we thought I'd put our heads together and do a little review, little collection of our thoughts, and let everyone know how it went, what we thought about it, what went well. I don't want to even say what didn't go well because it was pretty smooth, and what's coming up in the future, and then we're going to talk a little bit about drafting. So to start things off, I want to talk a little bit about the location and venue. Being closer to UTG, what did you think?
It's a great venue. I understand that the whole store with a pub in it thing is big other places. I had not been to a store like that. It's really cool. I mean, you basically have this multi-layer venue where you have a pub in kind of the center of the main floor, and they serve pizza, and they had mead and beer on draft. I mean, it's a dangerous combination, but really fun. Very fun venue. Great for the event.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of that up here in Canada, or at least not where I'm from. Maybe in the Toronto area, but definitely very cool venue. I want to say we had a separate room for the event itself. I want to say it almost got to capacity. Like it was it was pretty packed. So I'm glad to know that the June event's going to be in a larger room, larger scenario. But like you said, having pizza and beer at the ready, it really solved the whether or not we take a long break at lunch situation, which I know some events have. And the staff was great. They came in early to support us, and yeah, overall great. I flew in. It was seamless. It was 20 minutes from the airport. Overall, very great experience. Lots of hotels in the area to stay at, and highly recommend anyone in the Baltimore area if they want to check out No Land Beyond. Beyond the great draw of beer and pizza, they have a board game thing upstairs, right? Where you can. They have hundreds and hundreds of board games to choose from, and you can just come in, do your thing, have a great evening, and it's just overall great environment. So I really enjoy the choice of it. Excuse me, LGS there. All right, the main event. This is what I thought was kind of interesting. So they basically had a main event, a side draft, and a constructed event. But the main event was broken down into two pieces of a sealed round and then a draft round following that. I've never seen that before. TG, I don't know how many tournaments you've been to or events you've been to before, but I thought that was kind of cool. Is that kind of normal? How did you feel about that one?
Jojo has comments about it also. I think that cutting to a top eight or having a top eight, which then proceeds next, that happens in some Magic events as well. I don't know enough about those competitive events to know whether or not they do it where they go to sealed and then draft. To change format sort of as you go to the top eight seemed like a pretty interesting idea. You may not have people that are as good at one event as the other or what have you if you're at those competitive levels. So I think at Sorcery, we're all sort of a little bit more at the beer and pretzels level, but there are definitely some people who cream rises to the top in terms of their strategic ability and did very well in this.
Yeah, so shout out to Pete, by the way, Pete Hansen, who took the W in not only the sealed but the draft as well. So no question about his ability to pick apart the cards there. For me, I'm still not very confident in my constructed decks. Maybe some people out there still don't have access to some of the cards that they really want. So being able to go in there and have a shot at vying for the top with basically whatever card pool you come up with and the knowledge of the game that you have on tap, where that is all free and available to your liking. I thought that was really cool and gave everyone a good fighting chance to be top eight. So I really did enjoy that. How about the
I
prize?
agree.
Yeah, how about the prizing? I
The
think
prizing was insane. I I was blown away by it. I, you know, I I'm not terribly motivated by the prizes, but I was still blown away by it. They're so beyond expectation. I think that luckily we had some. It sounded like we had some really good support from Eric's Curiosa and some really generous donors to the event as well, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I don't remember all the pricing off the top of my head, but I do believe there's alpha packs given out. There's I think some alpha mats given out. Of course, the top eight invite to the main Courtesan Cup event was given out.
A full beta set.
Full beta set. Yeah, yeah, it was pretty wild. And the other cool thing, like you said, we had some support from Eric Furioso, so that involved getting the hands on the Crown Sorcerer card. TG, for those of you who don't know, won the draft event, so he was able to get his mitts on one of those, which is pretty cool. It's basically just a foil source word, but instead of an alpha or beta symbol at the bottom, it's got a little crown. TG, do you have that on hand by any chance, just to show
I
them?
sure do. I don't know how
Nice.
easy it will be to see. Oh yeah, I can see
Oh
it
yeah,
pretty well.
you can see it. So
And it also, the little crown also appears where the copyright symbol would be, or the alpha or beta symbol would be, as well as is the hologram there.
that's cool.
And in addition to that, right, they had the bone rabble promos, too, foil and
Right.
non-foil. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, so the pricing was just off the charts and super fun. Like you said, it shouldn't be the main draw to be there, but given the formats and the venue and everything, it was just a win so far. Adding on top of that, obviously when you're running an event, you're going to want to have the tournament organizer available or judges available. So as we went throughout the day, it was a full day of gaming. We heard judge calls come out, TA calls come out, and Ron, the guy running the event, did a fantastic job, in my opinion. There's questions answered almost immediately, whether it was peers helping out or judges that were selected to be there specifically for that. It was all handled very well, and everything ran just perfectly smooth. Um, what else do we got here? How did you feel about the? Sorry, go ahead, TJ.
I was just going to say that the one of the things I learned as somebody who does a little smaller organizations myself, Ron even managed to have 3 events going on at the same time, because he had the top 8 for the main event, the side draft, and the sealed, I'm sorry, the constructed event all going on simultaneously. And he was the solo judge for it. And he somehow held it all together, made it all happen. So a lot of respect for him, but I will not be trying to do that. I will have different events at different times.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. You could see Ron running around with a laptop in his hand, just like typing away, trying to fix things on the go. But he definitely had it handled, which was really cool. As far as pacing goes throughout the day, it was like I said, it was a very jam-packed day for the most part. It started off with the sealed event at 10 a.m. and we had a bit of a social break. I think it was 4 to 5 p.m. or something like that, 4:30, 3:30 to 5, something like that. But it was really nice because having the main event broken up, if you were out, you weren't done for the day, you could just sign up for the side draft or the constructed and keep gaming all day long. So that was super good. I found the pacing to be pretty good. With the pizza available in house, food was easy to come by. I don't know. I don't think I changed a whole lot from that day. What about you?
Likewise, I think the other thing that all of us in the community have commented on is how great the community is and how nice everyone is. And I just had a really good time meeting people and hanging around with them, and trading or talking cards with them was a lot of fun. So it was a great day, very well run, and yeah, I'm major hats off to Ron for pulling off a great event.
Absolutely. And that was the last thing I wanted to comment on was the community and the people we met there that day. It was just fantastic. Um, Even with that jam-packed schedule, we did have time to trade, like you said. We had time to appreciate some original art in-house as you brought, was it Violin and Border Militia, correct?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. That
I
was
wanted
really
to
cool to see. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to have people to have a chance to, Ron and I talked about it ahead of time, and just a chance for people to kind of experience the art up close, and kind of see it for themselves. So it was fun to be able to do that and share it with everybody.
I don't think a lot of people thought it was actual original art. Like I thought someone just like people thought people just brought in prints and that was just decor for the day. So it was kind of cool to see people asking if they can take pictures with it, grabbing it off the wall with permission, of course, and just seeing them up close, like you said.
Yeah, that's such a big part of the game, right? Is the joy of the art. And one of the things I'm a big promoter of is the artists, and I would love for people to get to know the artists. The artists will do all kinds of alters or sample cards, or you can commission things, right? There's just all kinds of opportunities out there to work with artists. So I feel like people may think that the art is sort of inaccessible, and yes, the pieces that are used in the game can get a bit expensive, but maybe not as high as people might guess. And as more sets come out, they'll probably be a little bit more accessible. But there are lots of different ways to enjoy the art and the artists.
Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing how you can reach out to these folks, and a lot of them are pretty down to earth and pretty easy to talk to. I've had a few interactions and transactions with some of the greats, Jeff and Drew, and I ordered a print from Santiago, had that hand signed by him, and that was cool. And yeah, like you said, just if you need something, commissions, alt arts, anything like that, they're usually very willing to work with you if they have time. It's absolutely a great experience because I never would have thought going into this that you can just reach out that simple and talk to them. It's it feels like to me like a little bit of a starstruck thing at first, but then you just realize they're just humans like you and me, and they just want to chat and talk about art, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and if anything, given that this is a fairly early stage game, they're more accessible, right? They're not being hammered by millions of people like a Magic artist might be, and so you probably can get a little bit more, one-on-one time, or a little bit more chance of them being willing to work with you on a project or help you with something.
Yeah, and I got something in the works. Not really willing to reveal what it is just now, but I'm hoping to iron something out with one of my favorite artists, and really looking forward to that. Yeah. All right. So last thing I wanted to give a shout out to, because I need to geek out a little bit, being the content creator guy, is Marcellus and the live stream crew. I went down there. Full disclosure, I went down there trying to help out with the live stream, and the minute I walked in, I realized I was outclassed by 1,000. I had no idea what level Ron and Marcellus were on for as far as this live stream setup, equipment, cameras, and everything like that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him, his setup, being able to manipulate cards, have commentary, live stream, all that kind of cool stuff. And I honestly didn't have to help a whole lot. He had it covered like crazy. So I'm looking forward to what they can do with the real live stream in June. And just wanted to throw that out there.
Really nice guy too. He and I happened to arrive at the same time, and got a chance to meet him. And I was asking what his role was, and he was telling me about his role as the streaming guy. And so super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that event coming to a close, we do have a bunch of events coming up. So if anyone's liking the sounds of this and want to give their hand at any of it, we have the West Virginia one, which unfortunately is sold out, but you can still, if you're in the area, stop by and check it out. Support Louis and the LGS. It's March 9th. There's March of the Mortals, which is a part of the Courtesan Cup, but it's going to be a large event down in Texas, I believe, which is March 16th. Albany, New York has Flights 2 Games, which is going to be hosting a Courtesan Cup qualifier as well on the 16th as well. So the same date as March of the Mortals, apparently. Florida qualifiers coming up April 20th, and the New England qualifiers on May 5th. So if you're getting excited about these, or you want to give your hand, or just even pop by to try one out, I highly suggest looking it up. It's not that expensive if you're in the area. It'll be a huge, great experience for you if you wanted to check it out. So with the big event in June, I know Ron's still kind of working on finalizing contracts for the venue, how big it's going to be, etc. We know it's going to be at least a hall of some sorts. Is there anything beyond what they cater to at this smaller event that you want to see at the larger finals in particular?
The big thing, I think, is to have some artists and some vendors there as well. I mean, the store is a vendor, so we had that built in already at this event, but obviously no artists. So I'm going to be there with more art than I brought this time. So I'll bring all my sorcery art down, such as it is. It's not a huge amount. And well, I don't want to steal any of Ron's thunder, but I think it's been announced by Jeff Menges that he'll be there as well. And Jeff did so many pieces for Alpha, and he's just a wonderful person, and you'll enjoy meeting him if you come. So I think those two things will be very nice. Artists. And I guess it would be nice. So try to think of multiple day events, right? So there'll be sort of the main event, and there'll be some side events. And I don't know exactly what he has in mind, but in the Magic world, I think there'd be like a continuously firing draft event where it's like you sort of sign up, and the minute there are 8 people, you go and you start drafting, and you just kind of keep having that. So we'll see. I'm sure, based on what we saw so far, that it'll be well run, and that there'll be enough to do regardless of what you sign up for.
Yeah, 100%. I believe just taking the combination of ideas and talent that he has right now and giving them a bigger platform to execute at a larger level will just be blown away. It'll be good. I'm very excited for it. And yeah, looking forward to it very much. So let's round back real quick to sealed and drafting. So for anyone out there who hasn't tried a sealed event, haven't tried a draft event, and are a little nervous about it, I was that person. I am slash that person. I didn't draft much in my TCG journey with Magic and anything like that. I played a little bit of Sealed with Sorcery because I felt comfortable having my own 6 packs, and those are my cards, and I can do what I can with it. And I thought drafting would be a lot. Playing with people I don't know. I don't know how competitive it was going to be and stuff like that. And this event, I had my first real opportunity to try drafting. And with Sorcery as a new product, you kind of wonder, is it draftable? Is it going to be a good drafting experience? TG, as someone who's run a few drafting events and encouraged me to play in this one, I can definitely say it's a hoot. And anyone out there who hasn't tried it, I highly suggest you give it a try. We wanted to kind of give an example of what that experience can be like on this video today. So we're going to open a couple packs in a few minutes here. But as an event organizer yourself, TG, what do you have to say about the drafting experience, specifically with like this product, Sorcery?
Yeah, so I think maybe I'll kind of compare and contrast sealed. I think with respect to drafting, there's kind of a game within a game, which is picking the best cards as the packs flow past you, and then being able to pivot and change your direction if it's not working out for what you hoped for. And that is super fun. You don't know what's coming around to you, so it's almost like you're getting to open a lot more than 3 packs, even though in sealed you get 6 packs. In sealed, you get what you get. If you get some wonderful bombs, you are golden, and it's up to you to not lose. But if you don't get fantastic cards, it's a little rough. And I think both of those formats, and I think you had a great interview with Jesse talking about how to play sealed, and he pointed out very correctly that having big bodies on minions is a really important thing, and that applies to draft as well. And so with draft, what you're really thinking about is what's the best pick out of this pack that I could take right now. And then because you're typically doing 15 cards and you're typically doing with 8 people, certain things will wheel around and you'll get a second pick from the pack. So you're wondering, well, maybe that one will make it back around. What could I leave behind that I don't think anybody else is going to take, but would be super good in my deck? So you can kind of have that meta aspect as well. I think the biggest mistake people make in draft when actually doing the drafting itself is they commit too early. They see a card, first thing, and they're like, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to make this kind of deck. Well, it turns out the gal next to him and the guy next to her had that same idea, and like nothing comes to you right as the cards go by. They're picking out the good ones already. So it's really important to be able to not commit to anything early on. And wait to see what is going to develop and what's the best card you can pick out of each pack. It's also really tempting, and I'm a collector, so rare drafting, so to speak, is what we call it in Magic, where you're just like, oh, look, a shiny foil thing. This is not going to work in my deck, and it's completely unplayable in this format, but I want it for my collection. I mean, perfectly legitimate. You have to decide for yourself, are you more interested in winning the draft and maybe, drafting an Amazon Warriors over a foil Magellan, globe or whatever. 100%. That's up to you. But you definitely will do better if you kind of forget about rarities and you kind of forget about, pretty cards, and you focus on what is the best card in this pack that's going to help me win this draft. That's important.
Yeah, definitely playability over rarities is something that's going to help you win games. That's for sure. And like you said, with bodies, having big bodies on there, but also the amount of bodies, because I've also seen people that ran out of minions pretty quick given the size of the deck you build in that format.
Yeah, it's very important that you don't go too heavy on the tricks, the kind of the combat tricks. There's some really great stuff like whirling blades and spin attack and all these really great things that will let you go 2 and 3 for 1 blaze. But if you end up with too many of those and not enough bodies, you're in trouble. And in fact, in the sealed event, I actually had a pool with 4 grapple shots. And on that information alone, I would have thought I had an amazing deck, but I did not have enough bodies to make fully realize that. So it is, it kind of is what it is, but start with the bodies, and then next focus on the effects that can make them more effective.
100%. Yeah, and like I was saying about the size of the decks, don't forget that decking out is now a thing in the newest rulebook. It was actually one of my strategies during the sealed play that I almost decked my opponent out with had one card left, and I could have made the comeback, but unfortunately they got the death blow.
I actually lost on Friday night against an opponent who in draft who had made a control deck, a really very effective control deck, and he was playing Wave Shaper, so he could kind of lock down one minion a turn, and he just kept me at bay until I decked myself. And I thought I was clever when I took various cantrips, which is what we in Magic call cards, which let you draw another card. But those just lead you to decking out faster, as does your sorcerer, right? That your sorcerer lets you draw extra cards, not just lands, but other cards as well. So you have to be very careful about that.
Yep, for sure. Okay, did you want to grab a couple of packs and we'll go through, see what we get, and talk a little bit about our findings?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that's always interesting about packs, of course, that we can't recreate here is that after they've been picked over, right, you have harder and harder choices about what to keep. But we'll just open a couple and look at them together and maybe talk about what we might pick as our kind of our first pick, second pick, third pick.
Sounds good.
So this is just a normal beta pack that I'm opening up here. So we got the Peregrine Apparition. It's expensive and small, incredibly mobile, right? It can pretty much be anywhere on the battlefield in one turn because of the ability to move airborne, diagonally.
And the Voidwalker.
Just a very good card that way. So maybe interesting as a finisher for an unprotected avatar, but this is probably more of a use case for like you've got a Doomsday Device or something like that, and you want to go bug people. I'm not sure it's a great draft card.
Yeah, I wouldn't say first pick for sure.
All right. What do you think of that?
Again, going back to the topic of whether or not you want to play water. Like if you commit to water, Divine Healing, Font of Life, any of those can easily save your game. And to me, when I'm playing limited, I don't expect my opponent to be able to heal much. So if they pop that off on me, or they, like we said about decking now with the new rules, Font of Life, if you want to turtle and Font of Life and that's your strategy to deck out for a win, which I haven't seen tried yet, that'd be interesting to give it a go. But what's your thoughts on healing?
Yeah, if you were able to get those two, that would be amazing, especially with a Wave Shaper to kind of tap down their most effective thing. I think this card is better when you're able to do more flooding, because you can get beyond your, say, 4 or 5 sites and have your opponent's sites as well. So I mean, if you have like a great old one, then this thing is absolutely nuts. I've had bad luck with healing because, as you know, it's a real feel bad when you get one of these when you're already in death's door.
Oh God. Yeah.
But I agree with you that it's a powerful effect. It's a real surprise, and it's a real game swing when you pull it off. So if you are playing water, I think it's a card worth keeping an eye out for. But because it is sort of niche to that deck, it definitely is something you could wait till it comes around for a second time.
Yeah. Backup strategy or something like that, right?
Yep. All right. Well, how about a dual land? Do you take a dual land?
So the biggest thing about dual lands, especially one with water like Oasis, is it prevents your buries, right?
Yes.
So removal is obviously very strong and sealed, and if you can play dual lands and that splash water, not only can you get your tufted turtles out, but you can also prevent the buries. So I like it, especially if I'm already planning to run the other color.
I completely agree with you on both of those points. And you can play 3 elements, I think, successfully without them, but it can be hard. And especially if you have any double threshold spells, it can be really hard. So I think you can definitely mulligan aggressively in this game. And if you just had one of these in your sites atlas pile, you could, if you didn't draw it, you could just dump your 3 and get the next 3, and you now got half your. You're only playing with 12
exactly.
Atlas
12
cards, so you've
Atlas
now seen
cards.
half your deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. It's not a pack one, pick one, but
Yeah.
if it's coming around, and it can be a fairly high pick. This is garbage.
The muzzle. Yeah, I'm not picking that.
I have not been successful at finding a use case for this. I realize that you're supposed to put it out there, and in theory, you could disable somebody else's minion, and it should be a form of removal. But I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Blood Ravens. Pretty
Cool
solid.
card. Cool card, but the problem is that with only one, so it has this ability to gain life, but it doesn't get that life when it's attacking a land, and if it attacks anything else, it's going to die, except for a couple power 0 things, right?
Yeah.
So unless you have a way to pump it, it's really just a little blocker.
Yeah, that's true.
Underperforms a little bit, I think, in limited. All right, Fade. What do you think?
It's good. I don't know. It's definitely not like a first pick for me, but being able to gain stealth on your minions is definitely a useful tactic.
And it replaces itself if you're in the opponent's territory, right? So I agree with you. This is a good combat trick. It's not as good as Grapple Shot, Spin Attack, perhaps, Blaze, but I do think it's worth taking if it's in your elements. There's not a lot of other cards in that pack that's coming by in your element, then it can be a good card.
Oh, it's your buddy. This is TG's like insta pick if there's nothing crazy above that. Definitely a strong card. Obviously, Sacred Scarabs being the 3 damage dive bomber that everyone's well aware of. I'm sure. I don't think there's a whole lot to add, but if you have anything.
It on the offense, which it can't be on the turn it comes in play. It's a 4. In a lot of ways, actually on defense too. Though it can't be attacked because it's flying, except by other airborne minions. But it's really cheap for basically a 4 mana removal, not just one thing, but everything at the site. It's insanely good. The fact that if you somehow get your hands on a Highland Falconer, you can for 2 mana you get both of them is just outrageous.
And it deals with our beloved tufted turtles too, right?
Yeah, it's true. You could attack them and then blow up, and they would be toast. I think that's right. So I think it's a really good card. You have to be a little careful with it because you're probably summoning it on your own sites, and if your own guys are standing nearby, and then the other thing that's so devastating is when somebody pulls a desert out against you with it and just blows it up before it can do anything. So it's there's reasons why it's relatively cheap compared to say a minor explosion or an incinerator or whatever, but it's still very good. All right, this card is a great card. Just a good sized body with ranged and a reasonable casting cost. Very, very solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not only ticking the boxes of the mana for power that we look for, but it's got the range, so very solid.
Yeah.
So the Fenvale Muse, okay, so when I was playing against that water only guy, he was choosing the spell. It is the spellcaster, and every time you do something is literally casting a spell. So this guy was like scrying until the cows come home, and it was pretty powerful in that sense. But in limited, again, you're scrying through a deck that's very tiny. So you already have the genesis of your water sites. That's what it does, right? The rivers, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So you're already scrying with your rivers, and yes, this kind of triggers it more, and you get to scry more. But do you want that at the cost of being one of the 25 cards you get to choose from? Is I guess my argument when you're already scrying with the rivers.
Power 0 is tough for kind of a trick that's going to help you optimize your deck. So I don't think it's certainly not an early pick, but it's another one where it's likely to come around because not a lot of people will likely be drafting Rivers, so maybe you get it as a late pick. And particularly if you were lucky enough to draft a Great Old One or a Sarah One Hydra or some other bomb, then maybe it lets you mill through your deck a little faster to get your bomb out. But yeah, I agree with your analysis completely.
Awesome.
All right.
The Men of Sorry, I know we started this video with a talk about the Courtesan Cup, but there was a lot of Men of Lang fans, at the event.
There sure was, and I was repeatedly whacked with the Men of Lang. I have generally not been a big Man of Lang fan, but boy, is it a feel bad when that thing whacks you. So I think it like you can relate to this. It was teleported onto my avatar, and then whack. And then, oh my God, now I'm losing a card out of my hand, and that's a precious, precious resource.
Very precious.
It's tricky. It's a tricky card.
It definitely went under the radar for me because I never would have, until playing and with the new rules, I never would have thought about the card draw being such a resource and what the Men of Lang can do, right?
Yeah. All right. Cool card. Not easy to get your value out of in it's just a one body is just not that good, especially when it can't even defend the turn it's resummoned. It comes in. Or when am I getting that confused with the Scourge Zombies? I am. I'm doing that wrong, aren't I?
CDA, I'm just gonna stop for once. Oh, there you are. Sorry, your internet or my internet dropped for a second there, but you're back.
No problem.
Yeah, Bone Rabble and Scourge Zombies I always get confused because I don't really play either of them a whole lot.
Yeah, it does. This one does not come out tapped, so it does have the ability to come back and be a defender.
Yeah,
but not a great choice. Very limited card in this format.
Anything that targets a specific minion type is kind of hard. Although, mind you, I used Mortality on a pirate ship in draft, and that was hilarious, and it worked.
I think Pirate Ship's a decent card. One of the terrifying things that's out there, in addition to the Pirate Ship and the Amazon Warriors, there goes my computer with the thumbs up, is the Azerbridge Caravan, which is all creature types, including mortals. So I actually had somebody blast one of my caravans with it, and I was surprised, but he was 100% right. Successful.
Before we get to the polar bears, we did skip over the crabs there.
Yeah,
but I mean, is there much to say left and right?
Not a huge amount. I think they're more interesting in a built deck where you have, I don't know, maybe you've got Silence or Sisters of Silence, and you're trying to, or other ways to move them around.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's obviously a lot of power, but the lack of mobility is rough unless you have a lot of movement because you built your deck around that as a water deck.
All right, polar bears.
2 power. It's okay. I mean, it's tricksy,
it's got the
but I don't think it's
I
don't think it's great for this format. Shall we do one last pack?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Let's see what else we get.
All right. That one's pretty easy. Tough to use in this format, in my opinion.
Yeah. Win slip, not too much.
This, however, that might be a pack one, pick one.
Is that House Iron?
Yeah, House on Baron Man. And the ability to basically pump up all those little villagers that you can.
There goes my rain of arrows.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what really surprised me that I didn't realize was as good as it is the Shield Maidens. Boy, do those make the little minions really, really good as well. It lets your 2s trade for 3 or survive against another 2 fight. I mean, it's the opposite effect, sort of, or the complementary effect maybe to this, right? Because it just makes your minions take one less damage.
Yeah.
And wow, that's really good, especially when you double those up.
And the other nice thing too is it's other nearby allies, right? So when you're forced into this format where you most likely doing 2, possibly 3 colors, you want to be able to buff everything, not just mortals or certain colors or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably a bit of an edge case. You're probably not facing other people's water decks. This can be fun if you've got a draft where you maybe have a little bit more of a chance of control, and maybe in water where you can kind of push and pull, maybe.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a great place to hide with your avatar at the end of the game if you're trying to avoid the death blow.
Yes, if your opponent didn't or hasn't been lucky enough to get an alternative way of killing you than just killing you with a minion, then yes, absolutely. For example, this.
Hey, great finishing card. So
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely. I wouldn't take it over an Amazon Warrior or something along that line, but it could be first pick in certain
Yeah,
packs.
I'm a big fan of Heat Ray. Obviously, being able to shoot right across the board in that cardinal direction is huge for finishing or clearing off a bunch of small threats.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Nope.
Oops. That's our basic land. We don't care about that.
Swan.
Swan Maidens, too small to be super great. Unlike the Palabaran Bats, doesn't go get root spiders. So it's okay if you need bodies.
The opposite of the Heat Ray, but pretty much coming up here.
This card got horribly nerfed by the new projectile rules, right? Because you have to start in the square that you're standing in, and before you could pick whether it would be that square or the next square over, right? It's real hard to make good use of that these days. It's kind of fallen in value. This, however, a burrowing 3 power for 3. This is a great card.
Chef's kiss. Yeah, beautiful.
I mean, it's a dumb cave troll. Whether you're looking at the cave trolls or the ogre goons, I mean, a 3 power body with no major abilities is still a great card.
Oh yeah, playing them right off the hop burrow too helps for avoiding those projectiles and defending.
Yep. I like a little bit of ramp. This card is so fragile. It's a bit hard to keep it alive, I've found.
Yeah. I found playing and all this limited was there wasn't a lot of aggro strategies. I mean, there was a couple, but they weren't too crazy aggro. So getting to your intended mana or site amount was not incredibly difficult. And by the end of the day, I felt like the Dryads are great. Like if it's your third, fourth time around or whatever. But I'd much rather have a big beefy body instead, to be honest.
That's a good point. It's much slower than the constructed play, where you have some of these battle mage and death speaker decks that can win very, very early on. You just have a lot more time to develop your board state, and you may be able to. It's not unreasonable to cast that 7 casting cost Highland Clansman. I got one out when I turned 4 on Friday night, and that was that was brutal. Lucky, but brutal. And it was only because I had a mixed error, which the guy who passed it to me was the guy who I cast Clansman against on turn 4.
Double.
He's like, I shouldn't pass this to you, but I was like, yep, you shouldn't have passed that to me.
And charge is so strong.
Ooh, that was the wall of air that I just dropped.
Yeah, you can leave it there.
Yeah, walls are not very exciting. This is a good card.
Sleep, yep.
It's a good removal spell. Though with the projectiles rules changing, it's easier to wake up your own minions now than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So this may not be as good as it once was. Small little nomads, a little too small to be amazing despite their extra movement. And then a really nice piece of removal because it affects everything at a site and also can be used to finish off an avatar.
Super simple, right? Like just value for the damage.
Yep, and that great piece of art on there as well.
I know. Matthias is amazing. I love his stuff.
Well, we didn't really get anything that I would consider to be like just one of these snap keeps the House Iron Bannerman might be kind of one of the better ones. And one of the
Yeah.
reasons why it's so good, even though it's a supporting card, is because the basic lands generate the guys that you need to make it good. You don't have to worry about something else coming around to you
It's
that
instant
will make it
combo.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet. Well,
Well, hopefully.
I'm so sorry. I'm cutting you off, our friend Center. You go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, hopefully we, said a few things that are helpful for others as I think about this. But yeah, you just need to be flexible. Keep your mind open. And you thought your plan was, you drafted that House Iron Bannerman, and then there's nothing really great for Earth that's coming around for you. And then in your second pack, you open a great old one as your unique. Maybe you change your tune and go over to the
pivot,
water side.
Right? Yeah. So big takeaway from TG is definitely don't get stuck in that first pack, right? That first pick.
I'm better at giving that advice than taking it. Isn't that advice though?
It's very true. It's definitely very tempting to take the first elite, well, depending on what it is, I guess, but any of the heavy hitters and then not being able to change your tune, because I stuck to my guns with mine. I got like 4 Petrosian Cavalries that one deck for a draft, and I'm like, I'm not going anywhere else. This is me. I love charge, and even if I pulled something like a great old one, I probably wouldn't have changed. But it's definitely good advice for those listening.
Those were fantastic. The Petrosian Cavalry 3-body forecasting cost with charge is so good. You had 2 of those on my avatar, and that was brutal, because your opponent is kind of like, all right, you think ahead a little bit. You're like, okay, if I get this damage in now, and then he gets that damage in now, and you're kind of racing to death's door, and that just completely throws off the calculus.
Yep. Especially when you can do like 15 damage in one turn, right? That's huge.
Well, that was a game where you and I both thought you had me.
Oh gosh.
And I got very lucky. So that I'll give a little shout out to the Escalon Cyclops, which can definitely be a little bit of a drag when you need it to deal damage against something, because it doesn't deal damage in defense. But it turns out that when you can teleport it onto your opponent's avatar and do a spin attack and then attack it, and then have a couple other little attacks, you can do 15 damage.
Just brutal. But it was great games had.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, thank you again for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this is informative for the viewers and people liked it. Definitely try your hand at draft, sealed, getting out to any events in your areas, anything you can do to get playing this card in person. As much as I love TTS and computers and geeking out, it just doesn't change the feel of in person and meeting people in the community. So that's my big takeaway. Get out there and try it, man. Don't be scared. Have some fun, and the community will support you 100% of the way.